Hello everyone, Professor Toybox here, and I'm back in my Gravity Falls toy box once again. Today I'm going to show you how to build a dunk tank. And to help with that, I've brought along Nick Fury, who's going to be my stand-in for one of the Time Paradox Avoidance Enforcement Squadron members. If you're a fan of the show, you know that they're the only ones who are able to dunk Stan, thanks to their futuristic laser arm cannons, because Stan's dunk tank was rigged and their arm cannons were the only things able to overcome the welded target arm. Anyway, here's a picture of Stan's dunk tank from the TV episode titled The Time Traveler's Pig. It's a pretty compact booth with Stan sitting on a platform above the tank and a single painted target on the right. I can't build anything quite this compact in the toy box, but that's okay. I don't think it needs to be that compact. It doesn't have to be an exact replica. A stationary target is too easy to hit anyway, so I've made my dunk tank larger and added 2 targets to move along a twisty path. And also, unlike Stan's tank, mine won't be welded to prevent the victim from dropping into the tank. So I've already placed some Creativitoys that we're going to need. And before I do that though, let's actually build the dunk tank. And we're going to start with the Tent of Telepathy sign. And I'm going to back this right up here as close as I can get it. Centered about the middle of that separation between those two plant pieces. And we're going to flip this around so that what we see on this side is just the wood. And we're going to place 2 of those like that. And then if we come up to the Gameplay Toys drawer, that's where you'll find the splash pool, and we'll place that as close as we can get it to the billboard there. So just like that. And we're going to put a party cannon back off to the side because we're going to need that. And I think I have everything else that we're going to need. Oh, one more thing. I'm going to put in one more plant piece. Come down to the plants drawer to Fantasy Terrain Strip 2. And we're going to place this about centered on the tank over there. And about like this. And if we go ahead and style it to be the Gravity Falls theme, that will be the line that we stand behind when we're shooting. So that kind of sets that up nicely. Alright, so let me go ahead and just, well, let's come into Spark mode again. I like working in Spark mode versus the Magic Wand. But for the dunk tank, I've placed 2 buttons. I've placed a sound generator, and this of course is from the Gameplay Toys drawer. We also have 2 targets that I'm going to use, and these, if I select these are from the Inside Out playset, and when you unlock them, they're in the Gameplay Toys drawer, not too far down from the sound generator. If you don't have that playset or you haven't unlocked this, you can just use a regular target from the Creativitoys. That will work fine. But I like those because they look kind of carnival-like. Then we have a logic gate. I've got 2 time delayers, another logic gate, a replayer, and a friend generator with a locator. And in order to use the replayer, I'm first going to need to come up here and style this block again just to make sure. I'll set this wood one to be my theme. That's the same texture I used for the Ferris wheel last time. I'm going to use that for this. And let's just go ahead and pick that up. Put it down, which gets us back to the blocks drawer. And if we go right, for the dunk tank platform, I am going to use this small floor. And we're going to end up centering that over top of the water tank. So let's go ahead and put that in first. So on the replayer, We'll come down to the properties for that and set the playback interval to 0. And then if we come out of Spark mode and out of the editor, we can step on the replayer, which opens the menu in the lower right. I'm going to start recording. We'll step off. And now we'll get back into the editor. And we're going to put our platform right over top the center of the pool of water. So just like that. And then exit back out of the editor. Step on the replayer to open the menu again. Stop recording. And if we press A on my Wii U to clear it, and then Y to play back, there's our platform. And then our little townsperson, our hapless victim, is going to sit right up here on the middle of this platform. So I'll put my locator right there. And let's go ahead and connect that to our friend generator, our friendly wave generator, sorry. So with a new locator connection, connect up to that. And then in the friendly wave generator, we'll configure the wave. I'll press the button there to add a new character, and you can use any character you want. Doesn't really matter. Just want to make sure it's a townsperson and not a cast member, because cast members don't behave quite the same. But let's see. Let's see if I can find something that's appropriate here for this setting. We'll use Norm from Phineas and Ferb. And then under the properties, everything in here is good. We'll take the generation delay to 0. And yeah, we can leave those off. Alright, and then under the generated friend options, for the behavior, we want him to stand still. So we don't want him wandering around on that platform. Alright, now the last creativity that we need, besides the ones I've put down here, is the path for those targets. So we'll come back out of Spark mode, and we'll need the path creator for this. We're going to put this right up here in front of the billboards, and I'm going to place this, let's see, bring up my screen grab here. Yeah, we're going to put that right there, just like that. So it's out a little bit away from the billboard and on the exact middle. So that'll be our first point. And what I want to do is I want to have these things kind of wind around. So I'm going to build kind of a crazy little path here, but we're going to come over 2 notches, place our second point, and then up 2 notches, place our next point, and then up 1 notch, to the right 1 notch, over 1 more notch and down, down 1 more, oops, over like that. Make sure I'm staying in a plane here. Okay, and then we'll come over 2 notches and down 1, which puts it right there. And then we'll come to the right 1, 2, 3, so it's underneath that far point there. Come up 2 notches and over 1, up over 2 to the left and up 1. 1 more to the left, down 1. You can kind of see I'm building a really crazy little path here. So I want these things to wind around and not seem very predictable. So now I'll go ahead and exit. So there is the path that we have to work with. Oops, I didn't want to come out of there. I wanted to go into Spark mode. Alright, for the path properties. On here, we want to leave active on, speed is fine. We want to turn on the looped flag so it closes that, and turn off auto start objects when connected. Everything else stays the same. And we'll go ahead and connect up our first target. So open the logic menu, new path connection, toy box path. We'll open up the properties for that. And inside here, everything is pretty good. The reset point, though, I'm going to set the first one to be 20. So 20% of the way around the path. And then all the rest of these are fine. Okay, so now to move that into position, we need a way to reset the path. And so we're going to come over to this button over here. This will be our reset button. So a new logic connection, when pressed, come over to the path creator, and we'll do a reset and stop. And this is kind of similar to what we did with the Ferris wheel last time, except we only have 2 targets instead of 5 blocks. So we push that, and you can see the target has jumped to its reset point along the path. And then for the second target, new path connection, come down to the path point, set that to be our path. And in here, everything with this particular, I can select this thing. There we go. Everything in here should be fine. We're going to leave the reset point percentage at 0. Alright, so there is the path with the targets. Alright, now to save a little bit of memory, and let me come out of the Spark mode here back into the editor. If you look at the memory meter on the right, that little colored bar, you'll notice that the total memory that I'm using, which is the top indicator on the bar, is getting up there pretty high. So I need to be really careful with the memory management in this toy box. And what that means is I don't want to generate any extraneous characters or enemies or anything until I need them. And so with the dunk tank, I'm going to actually leave this off until the player is ready to play it. And so for doing that, this will be our button for starting up the dunk tank. So this button will kick off everything. So on this button, we'll do a new logic connection when pressed. And we'll come over to our path creator and do a reset and play. And that will begin the targets moving along the path. The other thing we are going to do with this, new logic connection when pressed, we'll come over to our friend generator. And we're going to generate the wave. And that'll put Norm up on the platform at that locator. And then the other thing we want to do is new logic connection when pressed. I want to come over to this first logic gate back here. And I want this to be closed initially. So when we start this up, we're going to open it. And to close this, we're going to come over to the level starter, do a new logic connection on catalyze, and come over and close the gate. And the purpose of this logic gate is that I don't want the dunk tank to work when it isn't on. So if the player just walks up here and starts shooting those targets, I don't want anything to happen with those targets. Because the dunk tank isn't on. We don't have our townsperson out here. Targets aren't moving, so I don't want anything to happen. And so by routing the targets through this logic gate and closing the gate initially when you come into the toy box with the level starter, then essentially this is off. And so if you shoot the targets, nothing will happen. Okay, so now that that is done, the next thing that will happen after the player pushes this button is those targets will start moving, Norm will appear, and then they can start playing. So if they select either of these, shoot either of these targets, So we'll select the target and open the logic menu and do a new logic connection. When hit, we want to come over to our logic gate and input. And we're going to do the same thing for both these targets. New logic connection. When hit, both of those targets come through this logic gate and do an input. So it doesn't matter which target you hit, both of these will behave the same. And again, if you haven't turned on the game with that button, then shooting those targets will come through a closed gate and the signal won't go anywhere. Okay, so on this, that was my phone that just went off, sorry about that. Somebody sent me a text. Let me turn the ringer down on that. All right, so there's a number of things that we need to do when the player shoots a target and the signal comes through this gate. And it's kind of a interesting dynamic here because there's some things that have to happen. There's some things that I want to wait to have happen. So let's just do this one step at a time. So the first thing we're going to want to have happen on the logic gate is a new logic connection. On output, we want to come over and clear the replayer. And doing that will take the platform out, which will cause norm to drop. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Now when we do that and he lands in the water, nothing really happens. There's no splash, there's no nothing of any significance. And so I want to kind of have a splash sound play, which is why we have our sound effects generator here. And so we're going to come over here to this, and I'm going to set the properties to turn off the 3D sound at speaker or locator so that you can hear the splash when you're back here. And so the first thing we will do is route through this time delayer over here. To connect up to that. And so the properties for this is set at 1 second, which is fine. That's about how long it's going to take for that platform to disappear and norm to drop into the water. So on the logic gate, we'll do a new logic connection on output. We'll come over to this time delayer and start the delay. And on the time delayer, a new logic connection when the delay is completed. Come over to our sound generator. And underneath the general category, if you scroll down, there is a splash sound. And that's what I'm looking for. That one right there. Alright, so far we've made the platform disappear and norm drop. And when he hits the water, we'll hear a splash. So that's really good. Now, once he hits the water, he's been dunked. And so now we need to look at resetting this to play it again. And to do that, we need to get norm out of this tank and back up onto this platform. We need the platform to reappear, and we need norm to be back up on the platform. So 1 second after we've hit the target and he's dropped in the water and we've played the splash sound, we can also take norm out of the tank. And to do that, on this time delayer, we'll do a new logic connection. When the delay is completed, come over to our friendly wave generator and defeat the wave. And that will take him out of the water. Okay. One more thing I forgot before I continue is I would like not only for the platform to disappear and the guy to drop in the water, but it'd be kind of fun to launch some confetti. So on that logic gate, on output, we're going to come over to our party cannon and do some confetti. Sorry, I forgot that step. And again, that was off of this logic gate. Okay, so now what we need to do is put the ledge back and put norm back up on the ledge. And that's why we have this second time delayer here. So I'm going to open up the properties for that. And the delay time on this one I'm going to set to 5 seconds. And so when we hit the target on the logic gate, we'll do a new logic connection on output. Come over to this time delayer and start that delay. And then when that one goes off, there's several things we want to do. So a new logic connection when the delay is completed. First thing we'll do is come over to our replayer and do a playback, which will put the ledge back up there. The next thing we will do is a new logic connection. When the delay is completed, we want to come back to our friendly wave generator and generate the wave. And now one more little wrinkle with this, because basically this is everything you need, but there's one little problem, and that is that after you hit this target, we've got like 5 seconds or so before this thing resets. And so I don't want the player shooting those targets while Norm is dropping into the water and we're trying to clear the replayer and replay it. So we need to close this gate during this time. And that's why I have this second logic gate out here. So when they shoot the target and it comes through this first logic gate, we're going to do a new logic connection on output. We'll come over to the second gate and do an input. And a new logic connection on that gate on output. We'll come back over to the first logic gate and close it. So if the player hits the target twice or 3 times or whatever while it's resetting, nothing will happen. And that means that once we've finished resetting the game, we need to reopen this logic gate so the player can play it again. And to do that, what we're going to need to do, let's do it off of this time delayer. So we'll do a new logic connection. When the delay is completed, not only will it replay or do a playback on the replayer and put Norm back, but we'll come back over to the logic gate and reopen it. And that helps us protect the replayer so it doesn't get corrupted and have all kinds of weird things happen if the player is trying to shoot this multiple times or while the game is dunking the little townsperson and resetting. And so at this point, I think we have everything that we need. I'm just double checking all of my connections. Yep. One more thing we might want to do is for our reset button, we're doing a reset and stop on the path, but if we want to make this a true reset, then we should do a couple of other things. So we would do a new logic connection when pressed, come over to our friendly wave generator and defeat the wave. And a new logic connection when pressed, come over to this first logic gate and close it. And there we go. There is our dunk tank. Let's go ahead and give it a try. So I got Nick Fury here. Let's go ahead and start it up. So we have the targets moving. Norm is up on the platform. Let's see if we can hit one of these targets. And then after 5 seconds, it resets. So you'll see I hit the target a second time, but nothing happened because it was in the reset process. And one more thing I think I'm going to do. That sound was a little bit loud. So let's go back into the properties for the sound generator and turn that back on. And what you'd ideally want to do is move this to be right underneath here. like that. And so now if we come out here and we do some shooting, let's see how that sounds. And that was a little bit too quiet. So you can play around with that a little bit. The other thing we might try then is instead of putting it right underneath here, we could put it right underneath the player. Yeah, because this is down quite a ways, isn't it? So instead of putting it there, put it right underneath the player. The other option is might be better if we just set it back here. That won't be quite as far away. Let's try that. I think that'll work even better. Because this is a pretty thick block and that sound generator was down pretty far. That's better. Could hear that a little bit. All right. So that's how you can build a dunk tank in your toy box. It's a fun little carnival attraction that isn't too difficult to set up. Next time, I'll implement Dipper's mission, in which the player helps him destroy his clones. In the meantime, leave a comment if you like my dunk tank idea. Also, if you want to build a dunk tank yourself, I've got a logic diagram for you on my blog that might help you out. And be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done that so you don't miss the next episode. Take care.